Joshua Schmidt, 6'6", bench press 300 pounds, squat 550, deck size 40.
Gotta love to see it.
To some, considered to be perhaps the best player to ever play Runick, which is a stun deck. By others, seen as having achieved so much within the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Despite his ultimate weakness. Being German, how Joshua Schmidt goes to sleep knowing that Runick stun is the best Runick variant.
That's a really good one.
I attempted to learn Runick, which is a stun deck, to compete undercover in the World Championships Challenger Cup tournament. Going by the incognito name of Skuskinur, which is definitely Old Norse for best deck, and utilizing a profile picture which depicts the ideal stun player's body, a capitalist. First, we played 3 copies of Time-Rending Morbinite. It's Morbin time. The next Runick cards we played are 3 copies of Dimensional Fissure, There Can Be Only One, Goes in Match, Rivalry, Skill Drain, Kaiser, Majesty's Fiend, and Clockwork Knight. And finally 4 pots for consistency.
Gotta love to see it.
Finally, 3 copies of Hugin to protect all of the aforementioned cards from destruction, and 2 copies of Munin because...
Yep.
These 2 are based off of the mythological Norse god Odin's ravens, which fly all over Midgard and collect information. That's right, the best Runick cards are Narcs. Now, with all of that in mind, let's proceed with how I almost ruined 128 people's day pretending to play a resource management deck. Game 1 is up against Phantom Knights, which we lose the dice roll against, but hilariously enough, that doesn't matter, because we're setting 5 and feeling spry. After a flurry of plays, which actually translates to not much because he drew double malicious, he makes DPE and pass, which is actually kind of scary against a trap deck going second. We draw for turn, and the Holy Trinity goes in Rivalry Skill Drain. He actually goes for the Inspector board, which funny enough, we don't care too much about. Now that we're left defenseless and exposed, which my therapist says is normal for someone in the early 30s who plays this kind of deck for fun. We preempt the Shadow Mirror, so he can't chain DP when it comes back into standby, but we're still a little bit worried about Draco back. He goes Enchantress, which tries to go for the token, but we preempt the Rivalry, and now he's locked into Warriors in his Warrior deck. Which is fine, because we have Shadowmare Tikaboo and Rivalry versus Phantom Knight. By turn 13, I eventually establish a winning field after he tribute sets to try and out my Floodgates with Draco back, which is kind of clever, but with enough Runick utility, still a stun deck by the way, we can lock him into Terratop and sit on one of the Odin Narcs, Munin. Every end phase I gain some life, and I stop myself from decking out with Fountain. I loop Slumber for a few turns, but sadly, it wasn't enough. I lose in time because at the start of the duel just took too long to establish control, and to be fair, taking 3 minutes to flip summon a driver is perfectly reasonable. We win the dice roll, flip Skill Drain, and eventually it goes in somewhere along the way while controlling the field with a Clockwork Knight and Inspector Bordered. Great stuff! Round 3, we get paired against a subscriber of mine who volunteers to play his Royal-only deck. I decide to play Burning Abyss. You know, without embarrassing myself too much, let me just say that this duel was way more difficult than it should have been because Bestials are pretty freaking good. I literally almost lost to what is basically a draft deck. Round 4, it's Phantom Knight again? I win the dice roll, more ball over him, set cards which he tries to play into, but can't because I have continuous cards. This proceeds into me slowly winning via decking him out as I skillfully out-advantage this duelist since I have more draw phases than him because of the worst Marvel movie ever conceived of. This will be the last Morbin time meme of this video. Minor draw phase error. I win. Round 5. If I win, I can top. And I even win the coin flip. And I even draw Morbin time. Morbin time. Morbin time.
This will be the last Morbin time meme of this video.
He maxes me, I chain to special, and I give him no value off of this tribute summon to Majesty's Fiend against Soyon, the most notorious Dino player in Europe. This man will not have a singular out to this monster, except very specifically Hugin being chained by Gamma. I mean, I guess I could have played around it, but who the hell... it's complaining. He top decks Duster for turn, by the way, pops D-Fissure, which is the only thing that can save me, and then sends me back to episode 72 of One Piece, where the dinosaur island of the Elbaf warriors are dueling for... Sorry, spoilers. He activates Overraptor and destroys the baby. Don't worry, this little diversion didn't change anything. He is still comboing. After watching another 2 episodes of One Piece, it is finally time for his battle phase. And so ends the journey of Skus Kinur. For every story of rags to riches comes a failure in the attempt to gain the wealth of the land after reaping what one has sown for 5 rounds of Yu-Gi-Oh! Misery and despair. I hope you enjoyed my Runick gameplay. Thankfully, this video has as little of that as possible. Subscribe on Patreon for more, and gosh, I hope we find a way to make this 8 minutes. Please, I'm dying.